Thank you so much, Arisa, for inviting me here, especially Kohinoor. And it's an absolute privilege to be among such a diverse group of talented people. Okay, so this talk visual exercise takes approximately 2 hours, but due to the paucity of time, I have condensed it to 1 hour. The only problem is I won't be able to take the answers regularly to the questions that I throw at you, but that's okay. I mean, any one of you can reach me out any point of time, and maybe we can have lifelong discussions on some of the questions. So yeah, I basically am trained in biomedical sciences, and for the last 15 years or so, have been doing cognitive aesthetics, cognitive neuroscience, and experimental psychology in relation to arts. And I teach arts primarily because I have been doing practice-based artwork from a very young age, even before I came to science, primarily photography, filmmaking, poetry. So the idea is to kind of use, and that still remains the same, is to use both the arts and the sciences without necessarily binarizing them, to know more about the world within us and outside us. So the questions that I place here, I would request you to take it not as science questions or art questions, but as questions. Okay, so let us begin with a small clip from a very famous documentary. It's called The Story of the Weeping Camel. It's based on the Mongolian tribe phenomena called camel coaxing. To put it very short, when a brown-bodied camel occasionally produces a white-bodied camel, it kind of gets disgusted by it and kicks it out. This is a problem because that creates a lot of pressure on the livelihood, because if the white-bodied camel is not suckled, it will die. And so the Mongolian tribe came out with an ingenious solution. They sing a song and something remarkable happens. So let's hear the clip. Okay, so the theory is real, by the way, and this is a UNESCO recognized phenomena, and there are a lot of references for this, and this is a real documentary. So the question is, how is the essence of art, and I kind of put it in a question mark, how is the essence of art experience lived through here? By the two camels. Now, I have done both the EEG and fMRI, but unfortunately couldn't do it on the camels, nor I couldn't get the behavioral data of it. But it's difficult because we can make a knee-jerk reaction by saying, okay, the camel is crying, but there is not much developed prefrontal cortex, so the art experience cannot be like that. When the humans cry, it's catharsis, but when the camel cries, it just cries. It's not art experience. But it's difficult. What is the art experience between the singer and the musician? By the audience in the desert watching the act. By the tribe as a whole, ensuring the survival of the camel calves in the Gobi Desert. By the brown-bodied preferred camels watching the show. By the filmmakers capturing the documentary on camera. This is Bamboo Rendawa on location. He's a Mongolian director. By an animal behaviorist researching animal bonding. By a sensory motor specialist or a neuroscientist or an artist working on shared experiences. It is a famous work done by artists, published in the arts, how to think like animals and behave like animals. By the audience watching this as a documentary. By the presenter of a conference talk on cognitive aesthetics. By the audience in a conference hall watching this clip as a part of a talk on cognitive aesthetics. So does the lived experience of what has been shown in the video different? Of course it is different, but how? How do we classify it? How do we build an experiment out of it? So these are some questions that, again, due to the paucity of time, I won't be able to take the answers during the conversation, but feel free to reach me out and discuss and critique me as much as you can. That's how that's the purpose of a conference, I guess. Let's go to the other extreme of it, where the art experience and the intellectualization of it reaches a completely different level. This is a recording of a very famous play played at different places like Broadway, National Theater. This is the National Theater show. It's a play called Red, on the life of Mark Rothko when he was in the 1950s. I think you guys know about, some of you at least know about Mark Rothko. His actual name was Marcus Rothkowitz. So he's talking with his assistant, and he used to make, in the very later stages, used to make those canvases which has only one color painted on it. So Rothko talks with his assistant here in this place. It's a very interesting clip.
Answer me a question. Don't think about it. Just say the first thing that comes into your head. No condition.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite painter?
Jackson Pollock.
Oh.
Sorry.
No.
Let me do it again.
Forget it.
Come on.
All right, silly.
Come on. Ask me again.
Who's your favorite painter?
Picasso.
Pollock. It's always Pollock. Well, don't get me wrong. He was a great painter. We came up together. I knew him very well.
Where was he, Mike?
You read Nietzsche?
What?
You ever read Nietzsche, Birth of Tragedy?
No.
And you call yourself an artist? One can't discuss Pollock without it. One can't discuss anything without it. What do they teach you in art school now? Heidi Freud?
No.
Jung? Byron? Wordsworth? Aeschylus? Turgenev? Sophocles? Schopenhauer? Shakespeare? Hamlet? Oh, please God, at least Hamlet. Quote me Hamlet right now.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
Is that the question?
I don't know.
You've got a lot to learn, young man. Philosophy, theology, literature, poetry, drama, history, archaeology, anthropology, mythology, music. Come on, these are your tools, as much as brush and pigment. You cannot be an artist until you are civilized. You cannot be civilized until you learn. To be civilized is to know where you belong in the continuum of your art and your world. To surmount the past, you must know the past.
I thought you weren't my teacher.
And you should be so blessed I talk to you about art.
Oh, thank God the camels are not listening to this. Based on these two extremes, and these are valid extremes. Some people navigate in between. But these are valid questions and valid topics of discussion with reference to the art experience itself. I should keep a track of time, and so before, based on these two extremes, we get to some visual exercises with reference to art. So first I would request you to look into these faces with the labels in it for a brief period of time. Okay, so now look into this for some time. Read the labels. Those who do not know the meaning of petulant, it's kind of meaning finicky, always complaining, something like that. Okay, so what is happening here? The effect is different to different people, but the audience says that we force meaning when I know the label, right? Okay, just a kind request. Some of you have listened to this visual exercise in my other conferences, so those who have already listened to it, please stay silent. Okay, so this is one of the very early depictions of crucifixion by Boethius Adams Bolesworth, 1631. Look into this painting, this artwork. Okay, then this is a screenshot from The Passion of Christ by Mel Gibson. Okay, now look into this photograph carefully. So, to give the context, this is like a Philippine kind of a tribe who undergoes self-inflicted torture like the stigmata. So having given the context, please look into this photograph once more. Okay, so the thing is, the truth is, I lied. This is actually a mockumentary picture, photograph. This is not a real photograph. And actually this is all play acting. But when I say this, when I say the truth about it, you will get some clues, and this I require some answers. Can you just, after I have said the truth, can you just tell one or two characteristics that conclusively proves that this is actually made up? Yes?
It's posture.
Posture. Yeah, what about the posture? Oh. What about the posture?
I mean, he's like, I feel that if it was truly a true depiction of pain,
Yeah.
though his body is quite straight, there's nothing holding him in place. We could fight back, and we don't see the, like, for some reason there's no tightening of the muscles.
Of the muscles.
Or
Yeah.
like the
Any, yeah, thank you so much. Anybody else? Yes.
I think already start because it is a bleeding or something like this.
There is no blood, right? Anybody else?
Of the person putting in the name, that
Yeah.
person looks very, like, he's wearing a hat and then a watch in his hand and like almost in a full shirt.
Yeah.
You don't expect people like that doing that, and his expression is also like a smile.
Yeah, that's a crucial point, like everybody says. So you see, when I tell you the truth, you get the clues, right? It's evident. Okay, so bear with me. I lied the second time as well. This is actually true. This is a real life photograph from the tribes of Christos in Philippines. There is a reference for this image and the documented evidence in Guardian. I can give you the references. So what happens is, the idea, to put it very short, is that we can force an experience through context. Based on this, the question that haunted me for a long time, and that this is the reason I came to cognitive aesthetics. It was a risky thing. I was discussing with my mentor, who is here, and I'm proud that he's sitting in front of me, Professor Ranjan. We talk a lot whenever we get the chance. So the primary question that actually haunted me is, why is there a distinctively different psychological feeling when you observe the artwork in comparison to the real life documentation? And is your aesthetic attitude depend on the mindset? So based on this question, I started my first work long back in 2014. I mean, I was working on aesthetics, cognitive aesthetics much before that, but the paper came out in 2014. It was called The Neuropsychology of the Aesthetic Paradox. It was more or less a hypothesis based on 2 neuroimaging studies that had been made. So before that, this is a picture of Rembrandt's very famous work, The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Nicholas Tulp, which the question that I asked was, suppose a medical student watches a live autopsy in a medical hall versus watching it here. What is the emotional or psychological contingent that is different? Now, one very simple answer, and that many people give, is that, come on guys, this is simple. We know that this is art and this is reality. It doesn't quite work. It's like almost not quite similar to the dream analogy, right? So right now, if I ask you, give me one single evidential truth which conclusively prove that you are not dreaming right at this very moment? Can you give it? I mean, it's a question. I can't take the answers, but I will be, obviously, just think about it and we can talk about it later for a long time. So this work highlighted two neuroimaging studies published by Edward Wessel and Camilo Selaconde long back in 2013. And they found that there are two temporal phases. So how can you be simultaneously emotionally involved and detached at the same time? So the neuroimaging studies which found out that there are two different temporal windows, both the fMRI as well as the magnetoencephalography study. And I tried to integrate it with two phenomena with reference to literary criticism, emotion research. One is something that is, all of you know, it's called the phenomenon of suspension of disbelief. And the other one is introspective contemplation. And I try to link it with the activity of the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex of the brain and how the action shifts to the ventromedial prefrontal cortex with reference to the architecture of the default mode network. Okay. The second question that haunted me, and it still does, is the neurophilosophy of the aesthetic ideal. Now here is a very famous painting from the School of Athens by Raphael. So you see Plato's hand is pointed up, and with reference to the ideal image. Whether there is an ideal image behind the image that you see, that haunts you, that directly attracts you. It's a very seminal question with reference to universality of art form. And Plato says, sir, please stay grounded. And you see the hand is pointed on the ground. I can't go deeper into this, but ideally, with reference to representative or mimetic art, Plato said that the mimetic art is thrice removed from reality, and the ideal couch is made by God. And Aristotle referred to the fact that what is the brazen sphere without the brass, so which means that the ideal image is inherent within the represented image itself. Now, these are philosophies of antiquity, and my purpose was not to just reinstate these philosophies, but to understand how it can be interpreted to the developments in cognitive neuroscience. And I took the works of Jean-Pierre Chazeux, Semir Zeki, Ramachandran, and of course, Professor Ranjan. These people were a tremendous influence. Even for the very reason I came here, and this guy is sitting in front of me, I'm really, really emotional about it. His work influenced me to, or inspired me to see deep into these questions. When I read his assessment of art attributes, and I found that there can be a way to investigate this, and later on, so many works that he does, even now, every day. So this work dealt with these reinterpretations of this philosophical, and there were a lot of other philosophers I stated, and how it can be interpreted through the lens of current cognitive neuroscience. This article was further translated in Russian by the Moscow Association for Analytic Psychology. The idea was, for example, this idea of the Platonic ideal, whether there is something inherent within us. So we know about these studies, those who have worked on cognitive neuroscience, know about infant semiosis or neonatal psychology, where when the newborns are shown faces, I mean, they haven't seen a face before, but when they're shown faces in a scrambled way versus in a proper way, the gaze is more towards the actual orientation of the face. Similar with the effects of contrast polarity, whereby the eyes, nose, and mouth present in more or less in the normal position gains more attention. Okay, the next part I won't go because there were so many talks on the rasa theory, and even the speaker at 10 o'clock referred to this Vibhava Alambana Uddipana Anubhava, and how the bhava state is transcended to the rasa state. So it's, to put very simply, bhavas are primordial emotional states which needs to be converted. And the first work, I've been doing work on the rasa for a long time. We know about the facial action coding system by Ekman, and the eternal debate between Paul Ekman and Lisa Feldman-Barrett about discreteness and the continuum. Sometimes they say the same thing, but they still quarrel. It's kind of Wittgensteinian. But the facial action coding system, there is a very scientific, and anyone who is associated with dance, music, and Indian classical art knows this, that the gestures are very scientifically and well defined here. I won't go too much into this because, as I say, the topics have been covered, but my goal was to see whether the current scientists working on cognitive neuroscience, affective neuroscience, what are they saying? They have no clue about the rasa theory, but they're sometimes saying things which are surprisingly similar. For example, Jack Panksepp's work on the primary processes of emotion, or Jerome Kagan's work on the four-step cascade of emotion, kind of mirrors the conversion from bhava to rasa. So what I did was, I did kind of the first study that I did for a long, long time as my first postdoctoral work was set up the EEG lab at IIT Gandhinagar and do some EEG experiments on the same, whereby we showed Bollywood and Hollywood movies and did source localization, Loretta, and did a frequency domain analysis of the different rasa architecture, different emotional architecture while watching the movies. A very recent paper that I wrote in collaboration with NIAS was exploring the complexity and the entropy of a composition with reference to 40 Raja Ravi Verma paintings through eye tracking. So again, I have the data, I have the references, but I don't have the time, unfortunately. But it's available in the websites and you can look at it, what is there. Eye tracking is a very interesting thing that I did, not only with reference to rasa, but also with reference to masterpiece paintings. This is a work that I did. It's a fun project work. It's a kind of a project that I guided some undergraduate students as a postdoc at UCL, where what we did was we changed the focus of interest digitally, manipulated the center of interest of very famous paintings and tried to see how the gaze pattern varies. The next thing, again, a very fun project that I did was, and 70% of my works are still on the process, either ongoing, and very few have been actually published in a paper, and that's a fault of mine. That shouldn't be the case, actually. So that's my shortcoming. But it's fun sometimes not to think publication-wise, but do the work, see where it comes to, and then do much more serious work on the same. That's my trajectory, actually, all over these years. So this is a very interesting question that I asked in a very good commercial, in a TV commercial. What is the focus of interest? If we look into a TV commercial where arguably the characters are very popular or beautiful, where is the gaze? So this is a very famous Cadbury ad, and we did an eye tracking study, and it's a pooled data of many observers. It was also done as a fun project at UCL. So those who do not know eye tracking, it's just a method of measuring where your eyes are looking at. So these yellow spots are areas where you look at the most, and the blue are the cold areas where you don't look too much. And this is averaged data.
Kiss me. Close your eyes and kiss me. Close your eyes and kiss me. I can read your lips on your fingertips. I can feel your smile come on my lips, and happiness in your eyes. Kiss me. Close your eyes, kiss me. Close your eyes. New Cadbury Silk Bubbly. Silk now bubbled up for joy.
Okay, the thing that we observed, and these are all numbers actually, it's very easy to measure. The least amount of attention was given to the Cadbury actually. At least I didn't look at the Cadbury. So, does that make it a bad advertisement? What is the goal for an advertisement here? So one thing that comes out is, personification of the object within the character. If you see big Omega watch ads, you don't actually see the watch, it's barely visible. It's all about the character. So the character takes the place. Okay, so the other very interesting thing, and this I have published, it's there in a 2015 paper on, published at the Journal for Consciousness, Literature and Arts, where I was interested in academic referencing in art. Now, when we bring in an academic reference into a very seamless art experience, does the introduction of the academic reference distort the art experience, or does it enhance the art experience? It varies from people to people, but I'm giving you an example.
Now I'm gonna call my best friend in Paris. I'm supposed to
You
be
just-
lunch within 8 hours. Okay?
Okay.
Ring, 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 ring. Pick up! Pick up the phone.
Hello?
Allô? Fanny, c'est Céline. Comment ça va?
Ça va bien. Et toi?
Il m'est arrivé quelque chose d'incroyable.
I've been working on my English recently. You want to talk in English? Just relax.
Yeah, okay. That's a good idea. I met a guy on the train and I got a food with me and I was still there.
Are you crazy?
Probably.
He's Austrian. He's from there.
No. He's passing through here too. He's American. He's going back home tomorrow morning.
Why'd you get off the train?
Well, he convinced me. I mean, actually, I was ready to get off the train with him after talking to him a short while. He was so sweet, I couldn't help it. We were in the lunch car, and he began to talk about him as a little boy seeing his great-grandmother's ghost. I think that's when I fell for him.
It's 15
Just the
minutes.
idea of this little boy with all those beautiful dreams.
20.
He trapped me.
I'll see.
Okay, it's your turn. You call me French.
Well, she was literally a Botticelli angel. Just telling me that everything was going to be okay. And she didn't like me much at first. She's super smart.
Okay, so what happens here in this apparently very romantic, seamless scene, it's from Before Sunrise, directed by Richard Linklater. Linklater deliberately tells Julie Delpy to turn the head and simulate the Birth of Venus by Botticelli. Now, it's okay if you don't know Birth of Venus or haven't seen the painting, it just passes off. But if you know about Botticelli Angel, it immediately gives a reference. It pokes you. And whether this poking is something that you require. It is a form, it is a technique any art form uses. But does it really break the continuum of the experience? Does it force you to intellectualize? Or does it enrich the academic richness of the art experience? Is something that I was interested in. The final work that I will say, and I will finish within like another 5 minutes, is about, and I don't have the time to discuss in details with this. This was the project that gave me the Newton Fellowship, whereby I could go to UCL to do this work. It's called See-Through Film. The spelling is correct. It's cross-cultural emotional elicitation through films. Ultimately, this paper is going to be published as a book chapter on Indic thoughts by Bloomsbury. It's in press. So what the idea was is that from a very young age, I have been watching serious world cinema. Like I've seen Bergman, Truffaut, Kurosawa, I'm seeing Tarkovsky, I'm seeing the greatest masters, Bellatar of contemporary masters. And yet, when I see something like this, I cry. I get goosebumps, man. So, but this doesn't happen consistently in the same way to European American audience. So, I'll show this clip and then I will round off with the final 2 slides and then it will be okay, I guess.
आज के बाद मैं इस जोकर पर कभी नहीं आऊं। यही सजा मुकर्रर की है मैं अपने आप के लिए।
क्यों देते हो अपने आप को ये सजा?
क्योंकि बस बैठी है स्थिति में चश्मा खरीद कर। सुनाया जाता है नारायण मुखर्जी object to no rule देवदास मुखर्जी object to no rule तुम दोषी हो you are guilty and you drink till death it's me no objection No. No.
Yes!
Okay, that was a weird trailer. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like, when I've come to watch a trailer all day, I mean, like, that one wasn't really, like, it wasn't doing the way that normal trailers do. Like, it was, like, focused on one person's opinion. Like, I don't know, one person's vocals throughout the whole day. It's like, I might sound kind of harsh about this, but, like,
What was the whole echo part when he was out there? Was it supposed to? Was there a reason for that? Were they trying to say the area was echo inducing?
No, it was the way
Or-
it was because he was drunk. It was his way he could hear.
Okay, because I was for a second there, it kind of threw me off because I was like, if they're playing that, if that scene out there was getting played off, that area where he's getting loud at is supposed to be echo inducing, or the echo wasn't it? It didn't sound very realistic as far as, but now you said if it's in his head the way he's hearing himself talk.
Okay, so the idea was to include 2 things. One is social appraisal in cinema. So social appraisal is a development in the appraisal theories whereby you calibrate your own emotion from the appraisal of the person you're talking with. And along with the cultural models of self, which says that we have individual and relativistic models of self, which is not that simplistic. There is vertical collectivism, there is horizontal collectivism, and so on. So this paper that I wrote was based on that and how we validate it. So the entire work was built on a building of a film database on relationalism, and so which I did. The work is still ongoing, and there was COVID, and there were a lot of things coming up, and finally something will come out, hopefully. So before I end, I wish to tell you something. I did a lot of experimental sciences work, and that's the way it should be in neuroaesthetics. We should do experiments. We should ask the right questions. But there are certain problems we should be aware of. And those of you who have done experimental sciences know this basic problem. One is, so those who are not very familiar, I'm telling you that why don't we always take a scientific validity for granted? Because sometimes there are problems, especially when the experiment is not well done, when the design is flawed. And Professor Chatterjee also told a lot about the confounding variables and the problems we have, especially with experimental psychology. The primary problem is a very simple problem. Suppose I give an example of hot weather, where people eat more ice creams and the ice cream sales increase. And in the same hot weather, you get sunburn. So you will see many people eating ice creams having sunburns, which doesn't necessarily mean that eating ice cream causes sunburn. So this is very simple. Everybody knows about this correlation. So be aware of the problem of correlation and causation while doing experiments. We do that. It's not something unheard of in sciences. We always regularly check. But the fundamental problem, and this is my last slide, is it leads to a greater fundamental question. And that has been raised not in the 300 years of philosophy, but very recently, as early as 2007, by Quentin Melanchthon. And he's coined this term correlationalism, which says that can we access knowledge of anything? So, can we know the ontology of this watch without including a human agency? And they argue that we cannot. We all correlate. We correlate, and this correlation is not exactly similar to the statistical correlation, but there is a similarity. I can't go deeper into that. But if you read Quentin Melanchthon and the problem with correlationalism, this is the central theme of reference. Whereas Graham Harman dismisses it by saying that, come on, we do the best we can, and which is called a new school of philosophy called speculative realism, which says that it's not that we cannot include the human agency, and the notion that philosophy should solely concentrate on the relationship between the object and the percept and the human agency is not correct. There are other forms of correspondences where human agency can be excluded. Now, the idea, and this is something that I will end it, we can always say that these are philosophers, and we can dismiss them, or we can approve them and take for granted. But it will be sad if we do not know them, if we do not know the other perspectives that are going on with reference to, irrespective of whether it is an artistic evolution or a scientific evolution. We should know what is happening, and then we have every right to dismiss it or accept it. Because ultimately, it is not, the human intelligence is not about the accumulation of information, but our incredible ability to connect apparently unrelated dots. Thank you so much.